5 mindfulness techniques for busy entrepreneurs and professionals. So, a few years ago, I was working in an addictions clinic. And what I would do there is I would provide groups to people that are struggling with all types of addictions, whether it be alcohol, pills, marijuana, oxycodone, anything you think of, heroin, the worst of the worst. And I remember one day thinking to myself, hey, I should try something new with this group of people because I thought that if I try something new with them, I may get new results. So I had this idea to take them all to the beach to do yoga. Yoga is a great mindfulness technique. It's a great mindfulness strategy, if you will, but also it's a great exercise for anyone. And my goal for them was to help them to find mindfulness or to use mindfulness to help them find a deeper sense of self, to find something to help keep them grounded. So when those waves of addictions, when those waves of cravings came, they'll be able to lock in and ground themselves and not be swept away by their addictions. So we go to the beach and we're doing the yoga. And honestly, a few of them weren't just into it. A few of them, kind of straggled off. They went over to the beach, kind of went off in their own groups and started talking and things like that. But a few of them did stay. And I remember at the end of the event, the yoga instructor came to me and said, hey, I know that it can be tough teaching people mindfulness, but there's one thing that I want you to remember. And I asked him, I said, what is that? She said, the most important time to do mindfulness is actually when you feel you don't have time to do mindfulness. And I thought that was very intriguing. I thought that was very insightful. And I want you guys to think about it. The moments where you feel that you're too busy to stop and take 2 minutes to breathe, that is actually a sign that you need to take 2 minutes and breathe. Think about it. We all are persuaded by the idea that we don't have time, right? 24 hours in a day is not enough. But believe it or not, if you pause, if you really stop and just ask yourself, or even stop and notice your thoughts, notice the weather, notice your breath, you actually start to see things will slow down. Things will slow down so much that you actually be able to prioritize what it is that you should be doing and not doing, thus giving you more time within your schedule. But the thing is a lot of people get so caught up in their mind that they can't focus. They find themselves running around like squirrels, chasing another nut, chasing another task, chasing another activity that may be meaningless. And that is the whole purpose of mindfulness. And the purpose of this episode is I want to help busy entrepreneurs and professionals to use mindfulness to help them find peace within their busy schedules. When you're feeling like you're busy, when your mind is all over the place, when you're consumed by anxiety, it's hard for you to be your best self. It's hard for you to be as productive as you would like to be. And mindfulness is a great way to lock in so that you can put your best foot forward. If you watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, you will see in the 6th and final episode that he talked about how Phil Jackson, who was the coach, brought in a mindfulness guru to help teach the team mindfulness. Now think about this, guys. This is back in the 90s, right? Like the whole idea of mental health and mindfulness was things that they thought hippies did or things that they thought only crazy people needed to do. But what they did was they found a way to find peace within the chaos. And this chaos at the time was the Utah Jazz. Because at that time, playing in Utah was one of the loudest and most scariest places to play. It was very, very hard. But because the Bulls had a great sense of self, because they were able to practice mindfulness, they're able to go into Utah and win Game 6. And you know this as Michael Jordan hitting that famous shot. So this is what I want to help you guys to do. And before we get started, I want you guys to subscribe to this channel so that we get more information like this. So with that being said, let's go into the first mindfulness technique. So the first mindfulness technique is really simple. And my goal with these tasks is to help bridge, right, the gap between someone who is a novice with mindfulness to someone who, let's say, is a little bit more advanced. So in other words, I'm going to warm you guys up. So don't worry. First starting out, these techniques will be really, really simple. So this first one is called counting your breaths. And I've done this with a lot of my clients. And what I have them do is set a timer for 2 minutes. And then what they start to do is count their breaths. So every time they exhale, they'll count that as a breath. And my goal for them will be to count their breaths up until those 2 minutes are up. But here's the thing. If they ever lost track of the amount of breaths they were on, they would then have to start back over from 0. So think about it. You really have to be focused because when you get to the number 11, or when you think you're at number 11 and you can't remember, you have to start back over from 1. And the goal is to see how far they can get without having to start back over. I've had some clients whose mind was just so busy, they can only get up to number 8. I've had other clients who were so at peace, so calm, so focused, They're able to get up to number 25. This is a task that I want you guys to do. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can do it anywhere. If you're someone who, let's say, has anxiety when speaking in front of stage, right, in front of people, if you're someone who has anxiety when they're getting on a plane, if you're someone who just simply has anxiety whenever they're trying to perform a goal that they know they need to perform, this is a perfect technique to use before that. And the reason why is because it's going to help you get you grounded. It's going to help you take all your thoughts that are focused in the future, and it's going to help you to focus in the right here, right now, present. And that's the whole goal with mindfulness, is how do I lock in to this moment and let go of any other future moments that I'm thinking about? Because anxiety comes when you're focused on the future and all the things that could go wrong. And the best way to find mindfulness is here in the present. So what I want you guys to do, and again, you can do this on your own, you're going to actually set a timer for 2 minutes, and then you're going to simply count your breaths. If you find yourself getting lost, you have to start back over. And that's technique number 1. Technique number 2. So this one I really love because I love music. And if you love music, you're going to enjoy this technique as well. So what I have clients do is to pick one specific song. Sometimes I tell them you can pick a song that is a jazz song, or maybe like a peaceful song, like a meditation song, something that has a lot of different instruments. And what your goal is to do is to first start listening to the music, right? Just like you always do. But as you know, there's a caveat. As you're listening to the music, your goal then would be to focus on one specific instrument throughout that whole symphony of instruments. So if you're listening to jazz, as you know, sometimes there's a piano, sometimes there's a trombone, if you will, right? What you're going to do is focus on that one instrument for, let's say, 15 seconds. And your goal is to be able to lock into that one instrument. And then after those 15 seconds are up, you're going to go back, you're going to focus on the entire song. And once you listen to the entire song for, let's say, 15 seconds or 30 seconds, you're going to pick another instrument to focus on. So this time, maybe it's the drums. And you're just going to go back and forth throughout that music, right? Just listening to different instrument, song to different song, okay? Now, why do we do this? Well, the goal is simple. We want to help develop an ability to lock in and focus on a specific task, a specific thing. So I want you to think about it like this, right? And again, if you're a public speaker, this will help you. So if you're up and about, you're in front of stage of, let's say, 5,000 people, right? And that's a lot. What you may find helpful is to pick one member in the audience and just speak to them. You're going to speak to them and focus on them just like you've done every day of your life, instead of focus on the idea that there's 5,000 people in this room, because that's going to overwhelm you. But if you feel like you're speaking to one person, it's going to feel like you're speaking like you normally do. It's nothing new, right? Now, let's take another example. You may find yourself overwhelmed with all the tasks that you have to do for your business, or all the tasks that you have to do for your job, right? You may have people calling you, emailing you, but then again, there may be a 10-item to-do list that you have to do, and you look at your watch, it's already 6 p.m. So you're like, dude, where did the time go? Well, what would help you would be to let go of 9 of those tasks, let go of all the calls and emails that are coming, and just focus on one item. One would tell you that you could only focus on one item at a time anyway, so why not do that? There's a big myth about multitasking. People will say, man, I'm really good at multitasking. But what that does is it creates what's called decision fatigue. It's you jumping from one task to another, not staying in one long enough to be able to develop a sense of flow. It's that sense of flow that's going to help you to knock out that task and knock it out at a high level. But you can only do that when you're focused on one item at a time. So let go of multitasking and focus on single task focused items, if you will. And a great way to do that is to practice this mindfulness technique, where again, you're just listening to one specific instrument within a whole symphony of music. And then you're just going to go back to the song, and then you'll go back to the instrument, right? But this time it'll be a different instrument. So again, this is technique number 2. And again, what's great about all these techniques so far is that you can do it anytime, anywhere. Technique number 3 is called the body scan. Now, this one is really great for my clients who obviously experience anxiety, but also have a tough time sleeping, because every time we do it, my clients tell me, Coach, I'm tired now. I don't think I can finish the session. So this shows you just how good and how powerful it is. And this technique is, again, it's simple, okay? It's simple. I don't want you guys to overlook it, right? I don't want you guys to overthink it. So what you would do is you would simply find a nice, comfortable place to sit in or to lay down in. This could be in your bed or it could be in your chair. And what you're going to do is you're going to place all your focus on one specific part of your body. So it's very similar to the previous technique where we were focused on one specific instrument, but this time around, we're going to focus on one specific part of your body. Now, the way we do this is that we start from the bottom of our body, so our feet, and then we work our way up to the top of our head. So what I tell clients to do is to simply focus all of your attention on your feet. It may be the way your heels are touching the floor, the way your socks are touching the top of your toes, or maybe the way your shoes are touching the bottom of your feet. Whatever you want to focus on, just pick one place and just focus on that. Now, your mind may try to pull you and jerk you around, and actually that's good. It's kind of like being in the gym and you're working out your muscles, right? Doing some bench press or some curls, right? We need that type of practice. But the goal is to be able to pull your mind back to that one spot that you were asked to focus on. And what we do is we may focus on that part of the body for 15 seconds. It could be 30 seconds. And then we'll raise our attention to a different part of our body. So I may tell the client, next, I want you to focus on one part of your legs. So it may be the way that your pants are touching your knees, the way your socks are touching your shins, or the way that the bed or the chair is touching the back of your legs. Whatever it is, just pick one spot and focus on that with everything that you have. Nothing in this world matters other than this one spot to focus on. So again, we'll focus on that for 10, 15, or 20 seconds, and then we'll move up to the body and to the torso. And as you can see, this is the trend that we will go on. And it's very, very simple. And again, as you can imagine, whether you're in a car, you're in a meeting, right, or even in a plane, you can use this technique at any time. And the goal is to help you to be able to relax. Focus on the right here, right now, present moment. Sometimes, again, our mind is throwing so many hooks and so many things to drag our attention that we find ourselves feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And this is a great way to pump the brakes on the mind and give it something to focus on. Something that is not as destructive, unhealthy, or negative, if you will. And again, this is called the body scan. Now, if you have an iPhone, so if you have Apple Music, if you have Spotify, but also if you just have YouTube, you can easily type this technique in and you'll have a guided meditation to help you with this. And I typically tell my clients to practice this at least 3 times a week, right? 3 times a week as a way to get a good practice with it. And once you've listened to that audio 3 times a week, feel free to do it on your own. And that would actually be my task, or rather my challenge to you guys. So again, technique number 3 is the body scan. All right, guys, so I feel like we're warming up. I feel like you guys are getting really good at this. I feel like you guys are getting a lot of value from this podcast with these techniques that I've shared with you. And if you are getting a lot of value from this podcast, again, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can get more topics like this. Every week I drop gems that I drop in my therapy sessions that people pay me a lot of money for. I drop those same gems in these podcasts for absolutely nothing. So why wouldn't you subscribe to it, right? So main point number 4, or technique number 4, is called the 5 senses. Now I love this one, and this one's a great one. It's one that, again, you can use anywhere at any time. So the way it works is that you're really going to focus on your 5 senses. But the thing is I'm going to tell you what you need to focus on. So the first thing I always tell the clients to do is to tell me, what are 5 things that you can see in front of you at this moment? And actually, let's do it together. And I'll do it with you, okay? So at this moment, as you're listening to this podcast, whether you're going for a run, you're in the gym, you're driving in your car, or you're just sitting in your room, I want you to look and ask yourself, what are 5 things that I see in front of me at this moment? So for me, I see a pen, I see a water bottle, I see my phone, I see a camera, I see a computer, and I see a calendar. So those are my 5. Next, what are 4 things that you can physically feel? And as you're listening to this, if you need to take a moment and pause so they can catch up, so they can answer the questions, please do that. So what are 4 things that you can physically feel? So not an emotion, but things that you can physically feel. So for me, I can feel the watch on my wrist. I can feel the ring on my finger. I can feel the shirt on my chest. And I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on. All right. So that's 4. Okay. Next, you need to ask yourself, what are 3 things? Okay. 3 things that you can hear. So for me, I can hear the birds. I can hear my wife speaking. And I can hear the fan that's over me, right? Just simply buzzing around. All right. So there's 3. Next, what are 2 things that you can smell? All right. And as you can see, this is getting a little hard. So one thing I can smell is this room. And it's not because it has a bad odor. I just smell the room because it just smells unique. I think I have a Glade plug-in, if you will. So that's 1. The second thing is I can smell the iced tea that I was just drinking, okay? So I can still smell that on my breath, plus it's open, so I can smell that as well, all right? So again, two things that you can smell. And then the last thing is, what is one thing that you can taste? And that one thing I can taste is still the iced tea that I was drinking, all right? So again, if you need to take a moment to pause and answer those questions, please do that. Now, if you want to jazz it up, if you want to make this a little difficult for you, I would tell you to do this. Ask yourself, what are 5 yellow things that I can see? Or what are 5 circular things that I can see? This will definitely make it a little bit more challenging for you, and it really make you focus. And the reason why we want to do this is because, again, we want to have some type of anchor to use when our mind is being blown away. You can think of this as kind of like a boat that's sitting on the water, and there's a lot of bad winds. It's a lot of bad weather. It's raining, and it's getting real choppy. And the one thing that boat can do to help lock it in, to make sure that it doesn't get damaged, is by simply dropping an anchor. When it drops that anchor, the job of that anchor is not to make the wind stop, not to make the rain go away, but it's to simply lock that boat in until that storm has passed. That storm for you will be some of these thoughts that you have, some of these emotions that you feel, or it may be a situation that is happening to you. If you're able to drop your anchor and stay locked in long enough, that storm will pass. And then you can put your sails back up, you can lift the anchor back up, and then get back on your way. That is what mindfulness is, and that's what these techniques will do for you. So again, technique number 4 is the 5 senses. And then technique number 5, I'm so glad that you made it to the end. Because you made it to the end, it says a lot about who you are. It says that you're an action taker. It says that you're someone who really wants to learn mindfulness, and you're someone who really values being able to take these techniques and apply it to their life because you see it as being worth it. So congratulate yourself, and I'm glad that you made it this far. So technique number 5, it is a great one, and it's called Leaves on a Stream. And there's a great audio on YouTube that you can listen to this. So here's the idea of it. So first, you would imagine yourself sitting somewhere in a forest, or let's say even on the beach. And what you would do is first just simply notice all the things you can see, feel, taste, touch, smell. So again, the last technique that we did, the 5 senses, it really helps in this technique. So you will close your eyes and you imagine yourself being in this forest or being at the beach. And then what you would do is you would imagine seeing these little leaves coming down the beach, right? Coming down the water, coming down the river. And then what you would do is you would take any thought that you're having. So not just the positive or the negatives, but any thought that you're having. What you would do is you would imagine placing those thoughts on that leaf, and then watching that leaf carry that thought down the river until the point you cannot see it anymore, okay? Now, what does this do? This technique helps us to start to observe our thoughts and learn how to let them go versus fighting with every thought that we have. I've literally seen clients, and this is metaphorically, but I've seen clients jump in the water, metaphorically again, jump in the water and try to fight and tussle with every thought that comes down the river. And what ends up happening is they end up getting wet. They end up leaving the peaceful side of the beach or the peaceful side of the bank in the forest, and they end up getting all wet and dirty because they couldn't let these thoughts go. They just had to fight it. Now I want to ask you, which one seems more peaceful? Being able to sit on the bank and watch these leaves fall down the river, if you will, or jumping in the water, fighting all these thoughts or these leaves, right? Getting all wet. Like, that doesn't really sound fun. But yet that is what people are doing when they find themselves overthinking. And sometimes it's thoughts about their past. It can be thoughts about the future. It comes and it just jerks them out of the right here, right now, present moment. And the best way to get out of that is to use the leaves on the stream. These things that have happened to you, these thoughts that you think could happen, guys, they simply fall in comparison when it comes to your opportunities that you have right in front of you. You can only capitalize in your life and the things that you want in the right here, present moment. So why not bring your full self to this moment? And the best way to do that is, again, with the leaves on the stream. So again, you would imagine seeing these leaves and these lily paths going down the river, and just simply imagine placing these thoughts on that leaf and watching them flow by. For me, what I sometimes imagine is these little comic bubble scripts, right? So if you ever read old comics or even seen a movie, if you will, like an old movie, you have these comic bubbles, if you will. What I do is I imagine seeing the thoughts on these bubbles and then placing that bubble on a leaf and watching it float by. So you can use that to really help you. So with that being said, these are the 5 techniques. And again, I'm going to go over these just to simply make sure that you got these, okay? So these are the 5 techniques to help busy entrepreneurs and when it comes to focusing on their mindfulness. So the first one that I talked about was counting your breaths. It's real simple, guys. The second one is meditating on the music. So you're going to focus on different instruments throughout that music. The third one is the body scan. And again, that's a great one if you ever find yourself wrestling with sleep late at night. The fourth one is your five senses. Okay, so what are some things that you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear? And then the last one, the fifth one, is the leaves on a string. These 5 techniques, if you use them, they'll help you to get out of any jam that you may find yourself in, and it'll help you to find the peace and the confidence that you need in order to put your best foot forward and perform at the level that you want to perform at. So this is Coach Wells. I'm a licensed therapist, and thank you for checking out this episode.